Hello my friends, today I'm excited to talk about a bait that I think could be the best beginner glide bait out there for somebody picking up their first glide bait ever, and that is the Berkley Chop Block. I have this guy in 3 sizes that they released in. The 6-inch size, quite a smaller profile, the 8-inch size, which is a considerable step up, and then the 10-inch size, which I'm not going to be talking as much about today because chances are if you're buying your first glide bait, you're not going to get something that big. That's a seriously big bait. So why is the Chop Block so interesting? It's a new bait that just released by Berkley. They just came out with this bait. And the reason that I'm so interested in it is because I am a beginner glide bait and swim bait fisherman. And so I wanted to make this video with sort of a new perspective because most of the people that you're going to be seeing a video talking about this bait from is somebody that's been swim bait fishing for 5-10 years. They have a bass boat, they have $20,000 worth of swim bait lures, and so they're going to be viewing this thing with a little bit of a different lens than somebody who's actually just coming into it will be. So my experience getting into glide bait fishing and swim bait fishing has been mostly in this past season, this past fall season. And there were some baits that I enjoyed, but there was some issues that I was having with them. I found this, which is the Berkley Nessie 7-inch, which is Berkley's original glide bait that they made. Then soft plastic as well as these chop blocks that we're going to look into. And it has a mesh hinge here. Now the mesh hinge is starting to give a little bit, but this has been absolutely beat. This has got tons of fish on it. So I'm actually pretty happy with how durable that was. When I first bought it, I thought for sure that that would fall apart very quickly. So this is a similar bait to the Chop Block. And the Chop Block, you could say, is sort of an updated, revised version of it. So I think what we'll see hopefully is that the Chop Block has solved some of the problems that I'm having with this lure. One of the major problems that I had with this lure was this hook system. So there's one hook, free treble hook that locks in here. But the problem is, particularly with the type of fishing that I do, which is smallmouth fishing on rivers, sometimes they peck at it. And that's just sort of a, smallmouth thing, I guess. They have smaller mouths than largemouth, but a lot of times they'll just nip at the back here. If they're aggressive, I mean, you can definitely catch them on this, don't get me wrong. But you would miss a lot of hits with only this front treble here. So now with my experience with glide baits and swim baits, because I think that that's sort of a path that some people have followed, and I think with the rise of swim bait popularity and glide bait popularity, I think there's probably a lot of people like you watching who are in the same boat as me, and maybe you've tried a little bit of swim baiting, or you've sort of looked into buying bigger baits, but you don't have dedicated equipment, dedicated gear. You don't want to spend $150 on a lure. So that's where the Chop Block comes in that it's an updated version of the Nessie, but the action is that of, in comparison with the Buka Trick Shad or the KGB Spro Shad, which are $40 and $60 baits depending on when you get them. So the Chop Blocks is, depending on the size, around 20 to 25, I believe the 10 inches. So that's a considerable price cut for these Berkley Chop Blocks. So when we look at them, it's a similar profile to the Nessie, except much taller. And that's supposedly accentuates the chopping action here. And additionally, we have the second set of hooks. So that's very interesting. And that was really what very quickly drew me to being interested in this bait, because that was the problem that I was having with the Berkley Nessie, was with my hookups. So when we look at this 8-inch size Chop Block, considerably larger profile than the 7-inch. Now it has this stinger hook system with a magnet and a piece of braid attaching this secondary hook here, and that should clip in, glide, and if you land a fish on the back hooks, this comes out and allows the fish to freely fight without tearing up the bait further. Now the hinge here has that same sort of hinge as the Nessie. It's got a mesh in between the plastic, And I expect that it'll hold up quite well. Like I said, my Nessie has held up much better than I expected it to. It's been smacked by some huge pike, and it's pretty much in pretty good shape. It's starting to rip at the top, but I expect it'll have a lot of life left. So in terms of sizing, here we have the 6-inch size and the 8-inch size. That is a considerable difference there on that profile of that bait. So the 6-inch is a 1-ounce bait, and the 8-inch is a 2.2-ounce bait. So I imagine if you're buying your actual first glide bait ever, I would just say you cannot go wrong with this Chop Block 6-inch. I mean, it has improved chopping action from the Nessie, and it's still sitting at $15, I believe, with improved hookups from this back stinger hook as well, allowing additional opportunities for those fish to get their hooks. If they're nipping at the back, or even if you have a good one, it'll just inhale both of them, be even more odds of really keeping them pinned with both hooks in the mouth. But if you do feel more ambitious, or you're catching them on the 6, I would say, rod ratings are important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to just say that they're not important, but you can get away with throwing a 2.2-ounce lure on a medium heavy rod. Just don't try to bomb it with everything that you have and send it across the entire lake. I do a lot of fishing from a kayak and small bodies of water, and I can throw heavy lures if you're just pitching it under a tree or something, or just doing short little casts. And these hooks are not too stout that, if you give them the beans and the hook set, you won't be able to get that stuck in their mouth. The 10-inch is another story. I would say you're probably going to want some dedicated heavier gear for this for sure. And you're probably going to want some big bass in your lake to catch a fish on this. Personally, I'm going to be throwing the 10-inch for pike mostly instead of bass. But I'm interested to see how that performs as well. So at the end of the day, I'm very excited about this Berkley Chop Block because it's giving you the action of the Buka Trick Shad, the KJB's Pro Shad, or similar actions at a lower price point. And those are already the budget options for glidebait fishermen. Like if you're an experienced glidebait fisherman, you're saying those are the super cheap options at $40, $60. But if you're just looking to get your toes in the water, you're used to buying, whatever, a spinner or a Senko, that's crazy. It's $40, $50, $60 is crazy when you're, used to normal bait prices that you'd get at a Walmart or a Dick's. So basically, I think that this is a great opportunity to lower the point of entry, get your toes in the water, get what it feels like to throw a glide. Because I know I just started getting into this, like I was saying, and I didn't really believe what I was seeing on the internet. Or I did, but I didn't think it applied to me. I was like, all right, you can throw a glide or a huge swim bait down in Florida or Texas lakes, but up here in the north, I have small bass by me. I'm not going to get this sort of stuff that these guys are talking about. I'm not going to find big bass on these big baits. And what I found is you do get follows, you do get bites, and you just catch fish. And I didn't think that applied. I didn't think it would work. But even with these sort of smaller size swim baits or, more regular swim baits, it works great. It works super well. And the other thing about these baits is that what looked like a huge bait, like this Nessie here, I felt was a super large profile when I first bought it. When I first saw it at the store, I thought, that's a big bait. And now this thing looks tiny. It gives you so much more confidence once you've gone out, thrown this lure, caught a bunch of fish on it. It gives you the confidence to go out, throw a larger lure, throw different lures, throw swim baits, throw glide baits. So I think that this Berkley Chop Block is a great opportunity for somebody who just wants to try out a glide bait, don't want to commit to all the gear, don't want to buy a $200 lure. They just want to see, hey, can this glide bait fishing thing work in my lake? Would this be a fun thing to throw, to watch these follows, see these fish? And I think it is a super fun thing. I'm super glad that I've started to get into it, and I want to encourage other people to get into it by throwing lures like this as well. So that's enough talking about it. It's quite cold now up north, but we're gonna go to the water, see if we can get a couple casts in, see how the action looks, and see if we can catch some fish. Nice. There we go. There we go, guys. Beautiful cold water bass. You can see he's got both hooks stuck in his mouth there. Mostly that stinger hook is doing most of the work there. It's really in good on the top of his mouth right there. And that's a fish that, if he hadn't caught that stinger, might not have hit that front hook. The second one was in there, but I'm not sure if he fully had it. So that's one that maybe on the Nessie he would have missed. Watched him come up and slam that. There we go, first fish on the 6-inch chop block. Love to see it. All right, guys, well, I hope this video helped you decide whether the chop block is right for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video as well.